Warning: this creepypasta is fake and is not based on any real events. It contains themes such as murder and language that is not suitable for anyone under the age of 14. If you are either too sensitive or too scared, do not watch this video. Viewer discretion is advised. Remember when I came across that episode of Horseland known as house sitting? That episode traumatized me to the point that I didn't sleep for a night. But here's an episode that was more insane than that one. It was Valentine's Day and I had the day off from community base. I had a doctor's appointment because my dad thought I was having some breathing problems. During the appointment, I was also getting a blood test. After the appointment, my dad and I headed out. But, as expected, I stepped on a cardboard box. It had no name in it like always. I figured I should wait till I get home to view what was in it. When we got home from shopping at Safeway, I took the box to my room and proceeded to open it. What was inside it? A Horseland DVD. The cover consisted of Sarah Whitney along with the horses Scarlet, Button, Chili, Calypso, and Pepper in an entirely green background. The DVD was called Horseland, Fast Friends, and Other Episodes. I was glad to see a very rare DVD of Horseland, but there was a problem. What if there's a lost episode on it? I inserted the DVD to my PlayStation 4 and sat back. It opened with some previews for DVDs of Busy Town Mysteries, The Doodle Bops, and Mona the Vampire. As soon as previews ended, it took me to the menu. The menu, in my opinion, is nothing special, as it's just a snapshot of Molly comforting Chet from the episode Fast Friends. The options on the DVD were Play All, Episode Selection, and Setup. I sat for the following 4 episodes: Fast Friends, Pepper's Pain, Bailey's New Friend, and The Competition. All of them are really good. Or were good, but oh boy, I was right about there being a lost episode on the DVD. A warning came up before the episode began, like always. The following episode of Horseland is a follow-up to House Sitting, which was made by Rudy Wilcox, who was also fired from Cookie Jar Entertainment in 2007. This episode contains blood/gore, disturbing images, and murder. It must not be viewed by anyone under the age of 18. Viewer discretion is advised. Well, if this is a follow-up, then why was Sarah Whitney on the cover of the DVD? I questioned. I shrugged it off and decided to sit through the episode anyway. The intro came on, except had a massive change. Sarah Whitney's scenes were entirely cut from the intro, given that she died in house sitting, and was instead replaced by clips of other Horseland episodes. And then showed what happened in today's episode. A voice that sounded like Will said, "Today on Horseland, following the events of Sarah's death, Bailey and the gang want to know what killed Sarah. But it all turns to a life or death situation when Bailey and his friends come face to face with the mysterious creature. Will anyone survive?" The episode started with a shot of Molly Washington's house. The title of the episode was called The Aftermath. Shep then walked into the view and looked at the camera. He said, "This here is the house of Molly Washington. Sarah was in the middle of house sitting, but was murdered that night by a mysterious creature." It then showed a flashback of what happened in the previous episode. They are mainly the same events of what happened to Sarah. During the flashback, I saw what looked like a pair of human bones, presumably Sarah's. "Without Sarah, Scarlett's been questioning who will be a new horse rider," Shep said. The scene then cut to a funeral. The remaining kids of Horseland, including Bailey, Molly, Will, Chloe, Zoe, and Alma, were the hosts of the funeral. As I stared at the audience at the funeral, I could see Jasmine and Amber, Molly's friends. I could also see Nani, a girl who wasn't introduced until either Season 2 or Season 3. The funeral then started. Bailey went up to the microphone and said, "Thank you all for coming. You may have heard about the death of Sarah Whitney, my close friend. I don't even know what kind of creature killed her, but whatever did this to her, I hope it... Bailey tried to finish his sentence, but he couldn't hold in his sadness anymore, and began crying. His cousin Will began comforting him and saying it's going to be okay, and said that he's seen death before. Eventually, all the kids in Horseland, excluding Will, began crying because of how sad the death of Sarah has been for them. It then showed the barn where Shep and the other animals were. Scarlett was laying down in her stall, feeling sad. "Scarlett, are you okay? You haven't been talking that much," Shep asked. "No, I'm still upset about Sarah's death. Without her, I could never have another horse rider," Scarlett replied. "I know how you feel. Someday, someone will take Sarah's role as a whole new rider," Shep said. "You think?" Scarlet asked. Yes, I'm positive, Shep replied. He then put his arm on Scarlet's neck as a way of trying to comfort her. Meanwhile, Chloe was watering the grass when until Molly arrived. Bailey has invited us all to a meeting at a restaurant nearby, Molly said. Okay, let me finish watering the grass and then I'll come along, Chloe replied. And that's at a restaurant where Bailey, Molly, Will, Chloe, Zoe, and Alma were eating a pizza with pepperoni on it. Bailey proceeded to go over his plan. The plan involved going to Molly's place tonight to see if the creature will come back. Chloe decided to help out by saying that the way to get back at this creature is by weaponry. Bailey, Chloe, this idea sounds dangerous. What if someone in this group gets killed by the monster in the process? Bailey then said that they will be alright and they would all stick together. Will then sighed and cut back to the barn. So, it sounds like the main kids of Horseland are going to try to kill the monster, Angora said. I got confused at that point, because how did Angora hear their conversation? Oh well, it's animation. They are? Let's hope they can revive Sarah in the process, Scarlet said. The other horses looked at Scarlet in confusion as Nasdaq said to her, Scarlet, Sarah's gone. There's no other way to revive her. I agree with Aztec. That's one of the most stupidest things I heard of you. She's dead, and she's going to stay dead. Now get over it, you mindless horse, Angora said to Scarlet. Scarlet then started shedding tears when she officially began crying. I couldn't believe that Angora would say something that awful. Shep took a foot around at Angora, telling her that what she said was rude and disrespectful. Angora decided to issue an apology to Scarlet about what she said. Meanwhile, it then showed Molly's house again, except it was nighttime in this scene. Molly, are your parents home? Bailey asked. In all honesty, my parents went out somewhere, but they didn't say where. But they said we can go in the house if we want to, Molly replied. They then went inside the house and proceeded to set up a camp inside the living room using blankets and pillows. Will then asked the group if they at least remembered to bring some weapons. Chloe said that they sure did. After that, Bailey turned off the lights in the living room and figured it'd be a good idea to tell spooky stories before bedtime. The whole gang agreed, and they did so. The screen that faded to black and a time card then popped up saying 3 hours later. While staring at the title card, a question came up in my head. How did a creature enter the house in the last episode? Meanwhile, it showed the outside of Molly's house again. Just then, the creature showed up and bust down the front door very hard. That may have explained... Where am I? My question. But anyway, this woke up Chloe and Zoe. They waited for the footsteps to be gone, and then they woke up the gang very quietly. What's going on? Molly asked in a tired tone. Chloe and I think we heard the creature come in, Zoe replied, instead whispering. Okay, everyone. Now would be a good time to get your weapons, but do it very quietly now, Will said, also slightly whispering. Bailey and the gang got their weapons and proceeded to find the creature. Alma, Will, and Molly decided to look upstairs, while Chloe, Zoe, and Bailey decided to search downstairs. Upstairs, Alma looked to see if the creature by any chance went into Molly's room. She quietly opened the door. Without a doubt, the monster was in fact in Molly's bedroom. Alma gasped, but her expression changed from scared to angry. I got you, you son of a bitch! Alma shouted. I was quite shocked to hear Alma swear in this episode, but continued on anyway. Will and Molly heard this, and Will shouted, Alma, no! Alma then used the pistol as her main weapon and shot the monster in the face for about 3 times. The monster then pushed Alma to the floor and took the pistol out of Alma's hands, and then it proceeded to eat her on screen. As this happened, Alma let out a blood-curdling scream that was somehow loud for my ears. I was shocked by this scene, mainly because Alma's legs were eaten off with so was her heart. Will and Molly got to the bedroom, but they were too late. How dare you! You've murdered our friend! Hell, you look like a silhouette Wendigo, Will said. I agree with Will. Not only did you kill Alma, but you murdered Sarah as well, Molly shouted. The silhouette Wendigo let out a demonic roar, scaring both Molly and Will to drop their weapons in a scared manner. The main two then began to run away from the creature. They got to the stairs, but they tripped on their way down. But Molly and Will tried to get up, but they couldn't. Well, Molly, if this is the part where we die, I hope we see each other in heaven, Will said. The Wendigo then proceeded to come down the stairs, making Molly gasp. Eventually, Molly was the first one on the staircase to be killed. She got brutally stomped on the head, making blood splatter everywhere. I was also shocked by this scene. considering that there was blood being shown. After that, the Wendigo then began to choke Will by using its leg. Before Will could even be killed, Bailey shouted, "Hey! That's my cousin you're murdering! Let him go!" The monster let out the same roar from earlier, but Bailey, Chloe, and Zoe did not drop their weapons at that time. The Wendigo that picked up Will ripped his head off. Rather than being sad at his cousin getting killed, he was extremely angry. "Go! Run and hide! I'll handle it off," Bailey said to Chloe and Zoe. The twins did as he said and ran off. Bailey had stabbed the creature a few times in the chest while going up the stairs. The Wendigo then got a hold of Bailey and threw him off the staircase. This led to Bailey dying for good. Meanwhile, Chloe and Zoe were the last two remaining. They were standing near the door, likely as a way of blocking it. "I guess Bailey's not going to survive this one, nor are we," Zoe said. "It was nice knowing you, Zoe. We were alright twins." Suddenly, the Wendigo made a large hole in the door by punching it hard and it grabbed Zoe by the neck. "Goodbye, Chloe," Zoe said while getting choked. By the time Zoe finally died, Chloe took a kitchen knife from a drawer, while she began crying. Chloe told the monster to come and get her, and then the Wendigo burst the kitchen door open. She then stabbed the Wendigo in the chest a few times, but the Wendigo soon pushed to the floor like it did with Alma. While the Wendigo stood close to Chloe, it began to raise up its leg. "Do it," Chloe said while still crying in a angry manner. "Do it! I don't wish to live on this godforsaken planet anymore." Chloe's sentence got interrupted by the Wendigo brutally stomping on her head like it did with Molly. All the remaining kids of Horseland were officially dead. A time card appeared again, this time saying the next day. It then showed a bunch of police cars scattered across Molly's place. There was also a news report happening. The news reporter said, "This just in, if you think that Sarah Whitney was the only one murdered by the Wendigo, there was another murder, but this time involving more people. Those people will be Molly Washington, Alma Rodriguez, Bailey Handler, Chloe Stilton and Zoe Stilton, and Will Taggart. 4 girls were 12 years old, while Bailey and Will were 13 and 15 respectively. Stay tuned for more updates." Suddenly, Shep and Angora walked into the view and saw the police cars. "Well, this is going to be hard to tell the horses," Angora said. "Yes, very hard if you ask me," Shep replied. Molly Washington's parents were in the view and they were crying, likely because their daughter was murdered. The screen cut to black as Angora could be heard saying, "Never make encounters of Wendigo. Just don't." And then to the credits, but with a few changes once again. For a damaged coda played, but it was played by an orchestra. After the credits, it showed the ending logo just like they were horror themed. The Horseland LLC logo was in a bully-like text and also the word nightmares under it. The KOL logo was in reverse, and lastly, the Deke logo was all in red. It went to a 10-second black screen after that. I was confused on why there was a black screen. Unless, of course, there was going to be a jump scare, and sure enough, there was. I was greeted by an edited shot of Sarah gasping from the Horseland episode Mosey, where she saw that a car was coming in and Mosey was in the middle of the road. However, her eyes were black with no pupils and she had blood coming out of her nose. It was accompanied by both the gut-wrenching / Howie scream and a slow version of a woman's blood-curdling scream. This jump scare scared the bejesus out of me that I fell back in shock. And then took me back to the menu. I was really appalled at this point that I took the disc out of my PlayStation 4. But then I got the idea of taking some snapshots of what I found. Soon after, I proceeded to stomp on the disc hard and threw it in the garbage. There's a whole lot of other lost episodes you'll come across. So if you see them, watch them at your own risk. The end.